Lifestyle Pirates with Big J and Adriano.
Okay, good morning. How are you, Squire?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Welcome to Lifestyle Pirates.
Thanks for having me.
There's a nice little bike ride in this morning.
Yeah, it's great out there today on that.
Motorbike, not push bike.
Yeah.
So we are joined here today by Scott Howe, a transformation specialist. Scott's a good friend of Lifestyle Pirates, has been listening, and also a good friend of Adriano and I. Thank you for taking the time this morning, mate.
Mate, it's really kind. Thanks for inviting me.
Looking forward to the chat. Let's get straight into it. One of your hashtags, stop that, do this.
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
So that was born out of doing a lot of the physical training stuff and seeing how some people think that they should do certain things. And because I'm a little bit odd, I've studied it to death and back. My mum got me lifting weights when I was 10. Doing Olympic lifting and things like that, and got me studying pretty much straight away because she wanted her own little personal trainer at home. And so, if you come to my place, loads of these books on how to get stronger and fitter and blah, blah, blah. And so I've got a bit of an encyclopedic knowledge of the body and how it works and how you get the most from it at the individual level as well as a collective. And so the stop that, do this is you're probably not doing it quite right. How about giving this a go? And then that just morphed into, doing everything differently.
Yeah.
Why do you have to sort of follow the norm?
Yeah.
Try and do something else.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where it stemmed from. But it's just I'd like to try to do different things as often as I can. And I found myself getting into this a bit of a rut where for the last sort of 11 years of being here, not really doing too much. So it's like a bit of a note to self of, all right, get off your backside,
Not too much in professional life or in just exploring Australia? Because you're obviously from the UK like me. So what do you mean by not doing too much?
Well, I suppose straight into a deeper meaningful here. I think what it is that I've had this really strong tether to my past. So I 18 years in the Royal Marines, and so in my head I thought, well, nothing's going to be more exciting than that. So I haven't bothered. Right. So I've gotten lazy.
Wow.
Now I've only had that sort of realization probably in the last 5 weeks, which is why I said to you about Scotty 4.0. He's going, right, well, if I cut that tie, what happens? And I think what it was, the reason I had it so strongly tethered is that it defined me. I thought, I was a major and I was this. All right, so who cares? And not many people understand it anyway. They say, oh, you're in the army. No, I wasn't in the army. Do you know what I mean? It's very different, all this stuff. So I just had this realization, like I say, 5 weeks ago. That's probably why I haven't been doing anything. So I'm now making a bold, I think, move of not severing, but cutting that tie and that tether to my past and going, right, what else can you do? Which comes back to that, stop that, do this. Well, if you're consistently doing the same thing all the time, then what do you expect? So there you go. That's sort of the Scotty 4.0 bit is starting from that, stemming from that.
Yeah. So 17 years in the Royal Marines, not the Army.
Well done.
Mate, what was some of the stuff you did there? Because you did have a big smile on your face when you said that it's a big part of your life, and you've obviously done some amazing things. What kind of stuff did you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing is that I didn't want to join the military at all. Right. So it was me running away from home, and so it was more of a delay tactic. I thought, well, if I go and put my hand up for one of the hardest ones to get in, so it was either the Parachute Regiment or Royal Marines, which were seen as the hardest ones to get in that you could go straight into. I thought, well, I'll pick the one that I think is the hardest, then I won't get in. But it will give me time to figure out what it is that I want to do. And what I actually want to do was be a PE teacher.
Yeah.
But I was getting a lot of abuse from sort of family, let's say, without naming names, and so I just had enough. And so I was walking around Portsmouth with my old man one day. I said, I think I might join up. He said, oh, great idea, because he used to be in the Navy. And so that was it. Went into the careers office, did some pull-ups, some press-ups, answered some questions, got into training, and off I went. And it was just, I found it. Now, I've got to qualify this. I found it easy. The qualification is, I was always really quite fit. As I said, I already started doing, fitness stuff from the age of 10.
Yeah.
But I've also got Asperger's. So I'm a process monkey, everything has to follow a process and has to be that way because otherwise it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, the military does that, doesn't it? Otherwise people get hurt, you know. So I joined up, and 18 years went in a blink of an eye. But I, you know, when I went in as one of the lads. You know, as I was in the careers office, they said, "Oh, you could join as an officer if you want." I said, "No," because I thought I was going to fail. So just went in as one of the lads. Came pretty much top of the course, and the boss said, "You know, I think you should come back and go through officer training." Okay. Anyway, got to 40 Commando, which is down in Taunton in Somerset. Did about 18 months and put my chit in for, they call it a chit, your request to go and do officer training. And at this point, we were over in West Belfast, and I was doing some of the intelligence gathering work. And anyway, on a particular occasion, some poor squaddy was down in South Armagh, so he was in the army. We were in a different patch, and he got hit by the sniper with a 50 cal, which is a big piece of chunk.
Vehicle.
Oh, you know all about it. You know. Anyway, it hit him in the Aniba plate, and it took the plate straight through his body. So you know, that was pretty rubbish. And so I thought I'll put pen to paper, because this is pre-internet.
Yeah.
You know, and an email. So we had these things called blueies, which is a single piece of paper, and you wrote your letter, and then you'd fold that same thing up, and it would be an envelope as well, and you can send it to whoever you want in the world for free. And John Major was the Prime Minister at the time. So you know the concept of a Dear John, you know, when your missus is about to bin you. You know, anyway, so it was.
I've had a few of them, but yeah.
So it was literally a Dear John, and I just said, you know, I don't know why you're using this as a proving ground for your militaries. You know, what's the point? Blah blah blah. I said, at my level, doing what I'm doing, I could stop this on my own. And I think that was it. That was all I needed to say before the world descended on me. And so now I wrote that letter October of 93, I think it was. And then March 94, there's a call at the intelligence office saying, can Maureen Howe come and report to the RSM? Okay, well, now, so this is the concurrency of these stories, right? So I'd put in for doing the officer thing, and I'd written this other letter. So when I was going to see the Regimental Sergeant Major, the RSM, I thought it was about starting officer training. So I walked in, and you know, I've got all my stuff because we were in different locations. Got out of the vehicle, and I've walked into the building. As I'm walking in, the colonel was walking out, and I've never met this bloke, but he's a big unit, and his call sign was the Moose. He was just a big lump of a bloke, and he was a bully. In terms of leadership, he was a bully. Anyway, he as he was walking towards me, he lurched at me. A bit strange, and he ripped my rifle. You know, it was slung, so there's like a sling around my back. So I had to sort of duck down so he can pull it off me. He said, "You're not to hold an operator weapon system in this province." I was like, "Okay." He said, "Give me your rounds." So get my magazines of bullets out. He said, "You're not to hold live ammunition in this province ever again. Go and report to the RSM." And I'm just going, what has just happened? Yeah. I thought I was coming in to have a chat about, you know, going through officer training, and now I'm in a lot of shit. Yeah. And so off I went, and I knocked on the RSM's door. "Who's that?" "Maureen Howe, sir." "In you come." So I went in, and he just shouted at me from behind his desk for about 5 minutes. And
proper hair drying situation.
It was, yeah, exactly right. And for the entire time, I was just going, what's going on? He didn't tell me why I was in the shit. He just gave me a lot of shit. Anyway, so get out. Okay. I'm outside and I'm now doing this. I was going, what has just happened to my world? You know, golden balls in training. I'm about to go and do officer training. You know, everything goes well when I'm doing this military stuff. What's just happened? Anyway, he comes to the door, you know, 10 minutes later or whatever, and he said, "Right, come in here." I walk in.
Same guy?
Yeah, same bloke, like Billy Two Heads though. You know, chalk and cheese. In he come, "Take a seat." And I sat down. He said, "Right, this letter." I went, "What letter?" He said, "The letter you wrote to the Prime Minister." I went, "Oh, that, right. Oh, well." Because now I know what I've said. I said, "Well, okay, what about it?" He said, "It got to him." I went, "Oh, okay." He said, "No, it got to him." I went, "Uh-huh."
Oh.
And he said, "So you've got to go home." I went, "What?" He said, "You've got to go home." I went, "But why? I wrote it last year." Yeah. He said, "No, you're a security threat. The Prime Minister and the ministers are worried that you're going to give secrets away. I went, oh, come on. If I was going to do that, I would have done it already, wouldn't I? No, you got to go. I was like, oh, okay, fine. So an hour and a half after that call, I was literally in a plane coming home. No messing around, straight home. But I don't learn quickly because that was unfair. So I then followed that up by I was put on rear party. So those are the guys that patrol and man the camp when the majority of the people are away. So I was on rear party, and so we were on some sort of schedule. I can't remember what it was, like a couple of days on and 3 off or whatever. And I'm writing letters, as I do, to make sure the lads are right. And I've written a letter to H. Harrison, who's a mate of mine, and I sort of went to town on some characters that were in my command structure, let's say. And the next thing I hear is that the RSM's coming over to do a clear lower deck, which a clear lower deck is where all the lads that are on rear party have got a form up, and he's going to tell them what's going on. I thought, he's just going to give them a brief about what's happening back in province. And he dutifully did. And then he said, right, Marine House, stay where you are. The rest of you thin out. So everyone marches off. And he comes right up to my nose. I went, doesn't bode well, does it? And he says, you don't fucking learn, do you? I went, what? He said, your letter writing is going to get you in the shit. I went, what letter? He said, a letter to Corporal Harrison. I went, you mean my private correspondence? Don't you get smart with me, he goes. He said, right, you've got 2 options. You can come and serve me beer in the sergeant's mess, or you can go and work in HQ company store. I went, I'm not serving you a fucking thing, sir.
With all due respect, sir. I love it when they say that in movies. It's like, you're going to get the hair dry. With all due respect, sir.
Yeah, here's my point of view. Anyway, so, and just to put that all in context, coming sort of top of the course in training, went in doing the intelligence stuff, everything was going well. So from that, it was a massive fall from grace, So I had to bide my time and work in the store, and I dutifully did. And I paid my penance for about a year. And then I managed to get back into Bravo Company, which is one of the fighting companies that I was in when we were in Belfast. And literally the day that I got back to Bravo Company, the Sergeant Major said, right, Marine Howe, you're going to have to find another place to go. You can't stay in this unit. I went, why? He said, you're a marked man. I went, oh, bloody great. I said, well, all right, I'll go down a pool and do small boat stuff.
What does marked man mean?
Being a marked man, you're the sword of Damocles is over your head. It's only a matter of time before you're going to get ousted somehow. So he was looking after me, saying, look, it doesn't matter what you do, you are in the shit. So fresh start, go somewhere else.
It's only the depth that is changing.
Correct.
Right.
So, off I went. I went down a pool, and I think that was the making of me, because when I got down there, went on the course, came top of the course, then started training everyone else, then started training the SF guys, the Special Forces guys, to do underways and shipboardings and those sorts of things. And I was having a night out just before Christmas leave back in 95, and my mate Griff, he said to me, why don't you go for that officer thing again? I went, I've been told I'm never getting promoted. As long as that colonel and that RSM serve, I can't get promoted. He went, bollocks, I dare you. I went, all right. And so
your arm.
Yeah. So the following day, I wrote this this request, and I went in to see the boss, who's a chap called Rick Westerby, who actually lives down in Maroubra. Okay. Small world. Anyway, went in there, face like putty because we'd been on the piss all night. And he said, what you got there? I said, I've got a request, sir. He went, what's that? Handed it across, and he sat behind his desk and he's reading this thing. He's looking at me, and I'm a bit sort of wobbly. And he looks at it again. He said, yeah, I endorse that. I went, what? And I doubled over. I went, am I taking a piss? He said, no, you need to kick up the arse. I went, right, okay. And that was that. So off I went, and went into officer training. And then another sort of 11, 12 years of service as an officer. So it was a big part of my life, because I think, not only did I do the 6 years as one of the lads, and then the subsequent 12 as an officer, I got to see a lot of the world, a lot of random places, and a lot of really nice places, but the shit end of them. Yeah. So I've got to probably go and do them all again now and see really nice parts of them. But working with obviously it's subjective, but the best people in the world. That was where I first had a family, which is why it was a big part of my life. My family's all a bit weird, like a lot of ours are, but went there. There was no judging. Well, they was judging like ripping into you and taking the piss, but it was the first time I felt, steady and stable and part of something. And it was fantastic. It was so good. The lads were brilliant. The stuff we did was fantastic. And like I say, that's what tethered me, to the past, because I was reliving the memories constantly rather than going, well, what else can you do with those skills, Yeah. But I think the balance between having some time as one of the lads and then some time as one of the officers has really helped me do the transformation stuff, because a lot of the stuff that I do is working for large organisations that have got cultural issues or operational issues, which all stem from people, and a lot of it stems from this divide between the us and them, the management and the people. And I think because I've been both sides, I go, right, this is how it actually works, and I'm surprised that people don't think that that's true. Some of the looks I get when I say we're going to do this for the people, they go, but they're going to leave if you give them the qualification. They're not.
Yeah.
No, you're investing in people. It's like you're putting a figurative arm around them and taking them on a journey. They ain't going to go anywhere. And I've had a huge amount of success in transforming organisations. So when there's a disparity like that, or when operations aren't going particularly well, the Asperger's kicks in, and I see the world through this sort of interrelated matrix of stuff, and cause and effect. Which is why I did pretty well in the military, because they follow these processes, and that's the way to do it. So, it's really, I think, stood me in good stead. A mix of doing what I've done and having this weird wiring in my mind that I don't see the world in the same way as everyone else.
Wow,
that was a bit of a long answer, wasn't it?
That's brilliant.
Talk to us about some of you mentioned the us and them and the cultural stuff in organisations. What have you been able to, you touched on it a little bit there, kind of with the cause and effects, but what have you been able to take away from your time, out on tour, and doing the stuff around the world and being a Marine, and put into workplaces?
Yeah, I think it's the understanding what motivates people. It's funny, the wiring that I've got, this Aspergery thing, means I find it really hard to pick up on social cues and things like that. You see me in a party and I'll go into a corner until someone comes to speak to me, and then I can put my blinkers on and I can speak, and then I'm safe.
I'm like that too, though. I don't want to talk to anyone until you come up to me. If you make the effort, all right.
You're in.
I'll conform.
You're normally in the corner where the bar is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how did you find out that you had Asperger's?
Yeah. So I was actually working just up the road here for a multinational tech company, and I got called into the boss's office one day. Karen, she's a great person, love her. And she said, and she had something in a plastic bag. You couldn't see through the bag. But she goes, "Look, I want to give you something, but I don't want you to be upset." I went, "Okay, well, what is it?" And she sort of sheepishly handed over this plastic bag. I put my hand in and I pulled out a book, and it said something to the effect of adults with Asperger's or something. And I just started giggling. I went, "And what makes you an authority on this?" She goes, "My son's got it." I went, "Fair enough." So she's seen over a period of months, certain behaviours that I was, that I had that were mimicking or same as her son.
So typically, what are those sort of tells?
Well,
because I mean, personally, I don't know the difference. Like, I'm looking at you. I've spoken to you many times. I didn't really pick up on any of those things. Yeah, well, I guess 48 years of being on the planet with it. Yeah. I've learned sort of coping mechanisms and things like that. Yeah. So I feel, he says crossing his fingers, I feel like I'm reasonably good with it. But I think the telltales are the social cues. The lack of emotion on face sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'm either massively on or massively off. Yeah, I thought that was just military stuff.
But it's weird. I don't. Obviously, other people wouldn't have seen this unless they were, living with me. But when I'm happy, I'll cry, and when I'm sad, I'll laugh. It's like everything's reversed and twisted. It's really a bit strange like that. But like I say, it's generally lack of emotion, lack of understanding other people's emotions, and then this matrices. I see these matrix of everything, like the process of stuff, you know. And so when I look at behaviours and observe behaviours in the workplace, I already have an inkling of why that's happening, because I've seen, like I think I've seen quite a few organisations now, and been part of big organisations where, you know, you can see certain behaviours going, that's stemming from something. What is it? And I generally have a ballpark kind of understanding, and then you delve a little bit deeper. You go, yep, tick, you're right. You know, so so that I guess that is a thing. The other thing that you'll notice with people with Asperger's, they're usually particularly good at a thing. You know, maybe it's maths or whatever it might be. Mine's biomechanics. You know, I haven't necessarily studied it. I did strength and conditioning at Bath Uni, but I haven't formally gone and done, you know, a master's or a PhD in biomechanics, but I kind of know that. So that's my gift, I think, is that I just know that stuff. You know, I can't spell, I can't add up, I can't do many things. You know, and add to this, you know, also dyslexic, you know, trifecta of shit. But you know, but I'm really, you know, going back to the sort of 4.0 thing, I'm really embracing that I've got it. And sharing with people that I've got it, because other people have it as well. You know, I think everyone says, "Oh, I'm, you know, might be on the spectrum." Everyone's on a spectrum. It's just how much of it are you on, and how much it's affecting you and other people. You know, and I think I've only just recognised that, you know, it does affect people around me. So, well, get off your backside and do something about it, because it's not fair. You know, and my driver is to look out for people. You know, I really that's my purpose is you know, have an impact, have an effect. And it's about that, you know, sort of figurative arm around the shoulders. If you're with me, I'm looking out for you, you'll be fine, you know, which is pretty ideal in the military, right? I didn't get it from the military. It's just like how my wiring already was, you know.
I was going to say, does that stem from, you mentioned the lads and all that, looking after people, that must stem from that?
No, that's what I'm saying. I was already like pre-programmed to do that. Right. I just happened to find exactly right. And it was just good fortune and luck that I found the Royal Marines, and that's what they needed, you know. But yeah, it wasn't something that I learned there. It was something I was already doing. And what I find now, and Andrew, my missus sees it all the time, is that my mood changes in a huge way when I'm living my purpose. You know, so, you know, as you guys know, I got made redundant this week. But in that same 24-hour period, I had probably the best day in the last 6 months, because I was able to go and help another organisation and person, you know, sort of find their way, you know, and did a values and purpose workshop for her and her team, and came back buzzing because I've gone, right, I've shown you a new way, you know. And that's fantastic. So yeah, the whole you're like that because of the military. You're a product of the military. No, I was a product of me. It just happened to be that I went in the military and I stayed there because it was easy, because I was pre-programmed to be good at it, I suppose.
So with Asperger's, has there ever been a time in your life where you've struggled with something due to it?
Yeah. And it's been the last 6 months. So I joined a company back in mid-March, and the day I got there was to pick up a laptop and a phone and immediately work from home. So I met my boss and no one else. In fact, I met her boss during the interview process, but outside of that was it. And went home. And so everything has been virtual. And so going back to social cues, you don't pick them up unless you're in front of people. And even that's hard. Well, 2D, a life in 2D for my Asperger's is very bad. And I've only just realised it. So that has been a massive learning for me. And I think this is another reason why I'm really sort of trying to get the word out there about what it's like. So, you know, Andrew has suggested, why don't you start doing a blog about you know, living with Asperger's in a 2D world, you know, because there'll be other people out there that are struggling and might not even know why, you know, need someone like Karen who handed me that book to say, hey, you've got this thing. So, that's been really hard, you know, like really, you know, is there something wrong with me hard? You know, I couldn't put my finger on it, and then sort of just went, of course, you know, and largely that's come because of this. I think the learnings that Andrea has started to have now, because she's now reading about it, and I think that's like a user manual for how to live with Scotty, you know. That
can be the name of your blog.
I think we all need one of those sometimes.
So you know, I think that, you know, her third party learning about it, and then the interactions we have is also teaching me and going, I didn't even realise I've just done that, because that's what I do. And I'm internalising it, so I don't know, do I? So, she's really keen that I start, using my words, which is pretty hard when I don't really have many, let's say, or I haven't had to in the past, I think it'd be good to sort of help some people out and learn from some of the sort of the painful times that I've had. And this last, like I say, 6 months, it's been really cheeky. I just didn't realise how hard it would be to work in a 2D world with what I've got.
So what's some of the things you found difficult on the Zoom chats and the virtual meetings?
I think I get the energy from being with people.
Yeah.
As I say, I find it hard to pick up on what you're thinking or feeling, but I've got much more of an opportunity doing that if I'm next to you.
Yeah.
But doing it through a monitor when I haven't actually met you first, I mean, it'd be a bit different if you and I were having a chat like this, through the screen. It'd be fine because I know you. I've met you both, and know you.
Yeah.
But people I've never met, got to try and establish some sort of rapport and relationship.
Yeah.
Build it. And then find out what's going on and have answers to questions and stuff. That's just been really, really hard.
Yeah.
It's a big old organisation that's all over the place and going through a massive transformation. And it's, it's been pretty tricky to go, well, look, I've come in as an SME transformation, large scale transformation guy, which is what you're doing, and you're making me redundant. That makes loads of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's because we're doing it a different way. I went, okay, but surely you still need skills, right?
Yeah.
But I think that I'm surmising, so I'm not putting this on the company at all. Don't get me wrong, but I think that if you don't know what Asperger's is like, and you don't know you've got someone that you're managing that's got it, that's a pretty hard lesson for a leader who might not necessarily be a great leader anyway. And I can touch on that in a minute. But if you're like an old school manager, let's say, where if I can't see you, I don't believe that you're working.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
Mentality.
And leaders around the world are now struggling with the same problem. And I think COVID has actually made that a pretty cool step forward.
Yeah.
That you've now got to trust people. And that's the big thing, right, is development of trust. But that's really hard when you're doing it in 2D. You're doing it virtually and remotely and whatever. I think that's been a big learning is just, the guys on the receiving end of me who don't necessarily have any knowledge of it, that would be pretty hard. So I've got to start using my words. I've got to start, writing something or getting the word out there that, hey, look, other people have got this, and maybe you need to consider some stuff,
And so that's the stuff that you would take away from the military side of things. What would you leave in the military? So are there things you learned there that just don't work in the workplace in that transformational stuff?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that there are so many things that organisations can learn from how militaries set themselves up and run themselves, because they're ever evolving creatures themselves. Even if you look at the Royal Marines today, I think they're going through another transformation. They only went through one, I think, a decade ago, and then a decade before that as well. So they're constantly evolving and transforming and finding their way. And that's the element of success, I suppose, is the ability to sort of take the blinkers off, and go, how can we do this differently, or how can we be better? So, I mean, if you in the weeds of stuff, I think that things like talent management and promotion systems, that the system that the military uses is I think so refined that I can't see how you could say we shouldn't put this in a business. You've effectively got your typical sort of structure, pyramid structure, but then you've got twin pyramids in it. So you've got one that's your rank and one that's your specialisation. So if you're a DEMS guy or a landing craft coxswain like I was,
a what? Sorry,
a coxswain, drive boats.
Okay.
So if that's your specialist qualification, you can get better at that, but only at the same rate as you can get better at leading other people. So you have to sort of zigzag your way up both of those separate things before you move forward, right? Which is great because my specialisation as it was as a landing craft guy would mean that when I went on my promotion course, I was there with people from the SBS, people, the chefs, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Well, you're learning about all these other trades and other perspectives of the same world that you're all working in at the same time. Which means that the further you go up that pyramid, the more you're learning. So the more exposure and the more understanding you have to then actually lead the whole organisation, which is exactly what they do. And then you've obviously got filter systems in there as well. So you either meet the standard for that particular specialist qualification, or you don't. Same with the rank. You can either lead people or you can't. And they've been doing that for quite some time. 1664 when they started, so they've got a bit of longevity, haven't they? So
they've ironed out a few things.
Yeah. So I think things like that. If you could lift and shift that system into the corporate world, it would help people. I mean, a case in point, I was working for New South Wales Health Pathology many years ago, and I said to the CEO, I said, "When are you leaving?" And she went, "Pardon?" I went, "Well, you're wanting a high-performing organisation, which means that people need to have opportunities. Well, those opportunities stem from their ability to go up. And if you're at the top and you're not going anywhere, where's everyone going? Because you don't have the system to move people sideways into other really cool things, because the specialisation is even more blinkered than mine was. So you're either doing your microbiology stuff, or you're not. You're doing I don't even know what they used to call them now, but endocrinology or something. Those are two completely different things, two different skill sets. And so you're stuck just doing that thing. Well, the only other thing you can do is progress in terms of how many people you're now leading. We can't do that if the people at the top aren't moving.
Yeah.
So the organisations are stagnant. So I think this constant system of every 2 years you move on in the military, you either move up or move sideways, but it means everyone can continue to progress up, which is fantastic.
So what's at the top then for the military?
So the military that I was in, you have the Commandant General, the colonel who ripped my rifle off, he became the Commandant General. Okay. So that's the commissioned side. Non-commissioned side, the same RSM became the core RSM. So when I couldn't get promoted, it was like forever, because they stayed in for quite some time and they got really high up. They got the highest up in their two sort of structures. So you become that for that organisation, but then they can move on. So, the Commandant General can then become, on the general staff of the tri-service arena. So nobody is stopping you going further up in the Royal Marines. It's just you, and that's the other thing that I like. It's literally, there's no glass ceilings. You either perform or you don't. You get measured on all the things that you're getting measured on. That's another good thing, right? You can't get measured on stuff you don't know where you get measured on, or organisations that don't even have measures in place. Yeah. Have some measures so you've got something to focus on and achieve, and then you can have an objective conversation with someone rather than subjective. You've either met it or you haven't. Yeah. Right, move on, or no, sorry, mate, that's you. So I think, there are many things like that I think organisations would do well to learn from. And it's funny how so many of these terms or systems or processes or procedures that civilian organisations have, I feel they've taken a lot of them from the military. Terms like command and control, it bugs me beyond belief. This is Asperger's kicking in, right? Yeah. Because those are two different words and they have two different meanings. But the civvy world has put them together, and it's a negative connotation to that, isn't it? If I say command, if I say that to you, you sort of go, that means you're going to tell me what to do. In the military, it's a good thing because they're two different words. Yeah. Control is more what I would pair up as management. Yeah. And command is what I'd pair up as leadership, and those are two different things as well. So I think a real understanding of the words or terms you're taking from the military and then using in a really rubbish way, stop it. Just stop it. Learn and see what you can do with it. But the whole management and leadership thing, I think, is a huge thing that organisations can learn from. Pure leadership, as I'd call it, and what are the qualities of leadership, and how do you change your style of leadership depending on the situation you're in? COVID's just happened. Okay, do you still lead the same way? No. Why? Well, because you've got people at home who are worried about their health and mental health. So you've got to be more empathetic than you otherwise would have been. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think there's I could go on with all the stuff I think the military could or the civil organisation can take from the military, or the military can give to organisations.
So actually, it's a question. I think you're reading my notes here.
Oh, am I?
It's a question I've got here. In your view, what's the difference between leadership and management?
So I would say that management is the management of processes. The management of processes. I'm just saying, well, what's management then? So making sure that the processes are followed to the letter. And so pick something. Going to fill up your car. Well, okay, you got the steps. Get out, get your car keys, walk out the door, get in a couple of. So you've got your steps, but it is, and the management of that is making sure that you pick up your keys, you go to your car. The leadership of that is giving you the wherewithal, saying, "Hey, I need the car filled up." Not telling you how to do it. Crack on. Trusting you, empowering you to go and do it because you're not stupid, but accepting that you might get it wrong. And that's fine. Even in the military, that's fine. But they take opportunities where it's safe to let people fail. Let's not fail when we're at war, because that would be a bit rubbish. Yeah. But outside of that, that's why we do exercises all the time and run around the world doing stuff and working with other militaries, is so you can learn. So when I was a leader, as soon as I got promoted, I remember we went over into the desert and did some training there. And I remember one day speaking to Billy Bowker, who was my sergeant. I said, "I'm really bored with this." I'd been a Marine for 6 years by that stage, 7, 8 years, whatever it was. And I said, "This is all pretty easy." I said, "But one thing that happened to me really early on was someone gave me an opportunity to lead others, even though I wasn't in a leadership position, which was brilliant." And I thought, right, I said to Billy, "I reckon we should let the lads take everyone else's roles, including ours." He went, "All right." So that night we sat on this rock, had the lads in a sort of big half circle around us, and I got out a nightstick, a silo, and I spun the silo and went, and I couldn't see anyone really, it was just sort of silhouettes. So I went, "Right, you're now me," and I can't remember the guy's name, Marine Maynard, I want to say. And he went, "What?" I went, "Yeah, you're now me." He said, "What do I know about that?" I said, "Don't worry, I'll teach you." Did it again. "Right, you're now him." And so it went on. And we did that for about a week or two. So everyone had an opportunity to try other roles. And the reason for doing that was I was getting quite wound up when the lads would come in. If the boss has just given me orders, I've now got to extract his intent and then come up with my own plan that will help him achieve his, because I'm only but part of the team, right? You've got another 3 troops doing stuff. And so when I'm trying to sort of do my orders process and evaluate all the factors that I've got to think about and then conjure up a plan and courses of action, that takes a bit of time and I need some headspace. So lads, don't talk to me during that period. So rather than tell them that, I've got to show them that. So right, you're now me. Here are the orders. Go on, and then I'm going to ask you stupid questions. And then everyone left me alone because they knew how bad it was and the pressure that's on you and stuff like that. So I think that awareness of everyone's role just made us a really high performing team.
Have you brought that into the
100%,
workplace?
100%.
How's that gone?
Yeah, not bad actually, not bad. I mean, it's really. It's very dependent on the organisation and their culture anyway. If their culture is me, I, then it's pretty hard to put that sort of that working model in place. But if you've got a leader that's got the blinkers off, Neil Catlett, he was a guy I worked with in health pathology, fantastic bloke, and it was like I was concurrently changing the organisation with him, but coaching him to do it. So it was his thing, So I think it's really dependent on the culture and the capacity of the people that you're working with, and the more open they are to having a go, the more quickly they can transform the organisation. A, and B, the more fun you can have doing it. Because it's how is it a bad thing to give you an opportunity or empower you or give you a chance? Are you really going to take my role? Well, if you do, great. As long as you've got the system that everyone's moving up, but you don't, and that's why everyone's fearful of their own skin. And I think that's where organisations' performance goes down, is because it's all about me, I. Well, if you got rid of that and put in, it's actually about everyone. It's not about you. You probably have a high performing organisation there. But there are things you need in place for that to happen. And measurements and metrics are really like the cornerstone of that. And if you're getting measured on how much you're going to earn and we're working in the same patch and I'm selling in the same patch, then we're effectively working against each other. So how is that a good way to measure people's ability to perform? You know. So anyway, there's all sorts of things that I feel like organisations with the blinkers off can really learn from those sorts of experiences, but it's just really up to them, you know.
So why do we do it so wrong in the sort of business world?
I think, like I said, I think it's because you're measured on such random things.
Yeah.
You know, how much money you can bring in.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I understand that you need money to bring in, but isn't that a byproduct of other behaviours? So don't get measured on that. Get measured on the behaviours that you know make that happen as an outcome. You know, so for example, if you're in recruitment, you know, I've worked in an organisation that had 18 recruitment brands in it, or companies in it, and they would get measured on like how much time they're on a phone, and how many calls they've made, or how many emails they've sent, or how many candidates they've put forward for a role. You're going, or why don't you speak to the people that are looking for the people to come in? You know, that have got the role, and really understand what it is they need. You know, because largely it's about a cultural fit and alignment rather than is a skills fit.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's done the opposite way around. You know, so I'm going to hire you for your skills and cross my fingers and hope that you're going to align with those people. Well, that's the hardest bit to change.
Yeah.
You either align or you don't.
Yeah.
Go back
Skills
to
you
me.
can learn.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you've got, you know, good leadership, that's literally their role, is to bring people up and nurture them.
Yeah.
Do you see that in civil organisations? You know, it's so scant.
Yeah.
Exactly right. You know, some places get it right. Don't get me wrong. I know they're out there, but you know, because I tend to go into places that don't have it right. That's what I'm dealing with largely. You know,
I had a mate that had a business in the UK, and they would not hire people all the time, but basically when they would go out for dinner or lunch, and they got immaculate service from the waiting staff, they'd offer them a job in their firm.
Yeah, right.
Because, and it would normally be on a customer service line or something, but they were like, if you're good with people, I can teach you the rest.
Exactly right.
But if you actually have a good kind of temperament, you have a good vibe, you know, good way of doing stuff, then easy peasy.
It's inspired, right?
But it's not that difficult, you know. It's like the whole no dickhead policy. And,
Yeah.
And would you hire your friends? And if that's right, because actually you kind of have this power of association, and you go, well, if your mate's with him or her, then they're not going to be a donut. So we can teach the rest.
Yeah. It's just a filter system, right? You know, qualification of whether someone's a good egg or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And you talk a lot about. I listened to a few of your talks, and when you hosted a session at one of our events, you talked about the culture side of things as well. Are you seeing that? Does that help with the transformation side if there's a good culture, or is that part of the transformation bit as well? I guess with what you do, is it more around the process side, or are you leaning on that cultural element too?
Well, I've done both, and sort of I think that one is an outcome of the other.
Right.
You know, so one of the first gigs I had was with a big company that ran all of the detention centres, and they had just won the contract from the government to run all these places, and then they found themselves in a tricky position already. So you've now got to find, I can't remember how many thousands, 3,000 to 5,000, I think it was, people to go and manage all of these detention centres. Where are you going to find 3,000 to 5,000 people quickly? Well, you've got to take it from the old crew. So you're taking the old culture, practices, mechanisms, you know, operating model, and putting it into yours, and then crossing your fingers. Yeah. And funny old thing, it doesn't work. You know, so you've won the contract from the old company, from the government, but you know, against the old company because you're doing something different. But you're not now because you're doing what they've always done. So I had to go in there to change the culture, change the operating model, and kind of, as I say, one transformed the other. So I didn't really work like particularly on the culture. I knew that was going to be an outcome of changing how we do the operations, and all the processes and sub-processes and independencies of that meant that the culture changed. And let me give you for example. You know, you got people getting away with some pretty rubbish things because it's unionised. They were allowed to, and you're going, hang on a minute, it doesn't make it right, does it? You know, so I had to find mechanisms that meant that it was almost like self-policing, and it was frowned upon, and then they could look after themselves, you know. And put all sorts of things in place that meant that this divide between the management that were telling you what to do and the people, that sort of went, because it was empowering the people, and it was also empowering the leaders to lead. Don't get in your ivory tower. Don't get into your own little headspace. This is about them. And if you work really hard for them, guess what? They're going to work really hard for you. So like I say, it was a cause and effect thing, and I've largely done everything kind of in the same way. You know, we'll be brought in because they want to learn how to do transformation, and then I'll go, well, I can do that, but it's a waste of your money and my time, because the culture is me, I. And so, what about we change the culture? And we can give them the teaching afterwards. I'm like, can you do that? I went, yeah, no problem. Off you go. So I think I've done quite a lot of both, but I think one's normally an outcome of the other.
Okay. And have the teams got to be willing to change?
Well, I mean, that helps. Yeah, it helps. I mean, but you don't always. I've never found an organisation where everyone's going, yeah, let's do this. You've got to cajole, you've got to, inspire, enthuse, and motivate. Some of the catch lines coming out from leadership training, but
was it inspire, enthuse, and motivate?
Yeah, if you can do those three things, you're laughing, really. I think that you're always going to find people who are anti-change, because change takes a bit of effort, and change upsets the apple cart, and and I'm on the receiving end of change right now. They decided to go a different way with the transformation, and I think I've got to be pretty proud of it, because normally I'll go into a massive black hole. Oh, woe with me. Where I've gone, okay, this is the universe telling me, get off your backside and go and do what you actually love. I love transforming organisations. I love helping organisations scale. I mean, we know Ben. I helped Ben Liggett last year with his, and he's a mate, and so you've really got to make sure you do the right thing. Otherwise, exactly what you said, everyone knows you're an idiot. Couldn't do that. Yeah. Whereas on the flip side of it, he's done really, really well, and he's now telling people. So I'm going, that's brilliant. A mix of doing the large scale stuff and now starting to work with some scale up organisations is pretty cool, because you have that impact quite quickly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I can imagine they're quite lean on the headcount, and they've perhaps not got those processes and procedures in place.
100%. I mean, what was quite funny with Ben, I was doing some coaching with him as well, and going, I think you are a good leader, but he just didn't like leading, and he's taken that sort of stance. No, I'll get someone else in, and this new guy's come in. He's got nothing to do, because Ben and I put it all in. All the right processes are in there, so there's no quick wins. You've got to now work hard. So I'm pretty proud of that, actually. But inspire, enthuse, and motivate. The leadership thing, I think, is really easy, and people manage to screw it up so well. There's some really cool stuff out there. I follow a couple of people just because they're smart, and they seem to talk sense to me, or speak Scotty, let's say, and Dan Airley is one of them, and he did a study, I think it was MIT or Duke University over in the States, and he basically had he was giving pieces of paper to people and asking them to circle bigrams, pairs of letters. So the two O's in look, for example, but for each piece of paper, he would pay them 20 cents less. So that was what everyone was doing. But you had three different situations. The first one is that when you do that and you give me your piece of paper, I put it face down on the desk, give you another piece of paper, crack on, pay you 20 cents less, see how long you go. The second condition was you give me your piece of paper and I put it straight into a shredder, see how long you go. And then the third condition is you give me a piece of paper, I look at it and I go, uh-huh. So I don't even say anything. I just grunt at you. What I found quite interesting about the outcome, in fact, I'll ask you, what do you think the outcome is? Which one of those three conditions worked the longest? Would it be, the work putting face down, or the work put in the shredder, or someone looking at it and acknowledging by going, uh-huh?
I think the acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, yeah, absolutely. If someone's actually looking at what you're doing, that has an impact. And this is from the Asperger's guy. If I hand you something and you just go, Is that right? You know, if you look at it, I go, oh, okay, there's something. And then if you go, just doing that made them go twice as long as the other two conditions. Yeah. What's more interesting, because I thought that was reasonably obvious, that one, but what was really interesting is that putting somebody's work face down on the bench is exactly the same as putting it straight into a shredder, because you haven't acknowledged them. How easy is it to lead? Grunt.
Yeah.
Look at a piece of work and grunt. Do you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Did you write that down? Wow, okay. There's something about that as well. I remember doing a workshop a while ago, and the chap was saying, you know, if you're one of your team member asks you a question, you know, and you're doing something, it's very easy just to carry on doing something and just kind of tilt your head one way and listen in almost.
Half listen, yeah.
And I remember him saying, you know, stop what you're doing, turn your chair to face the person and engage them.
Yeah.
And he said, one, because they're not going to have to repeat it because you're paying attention, and two, you're actually giving them your. And again, you kind of go, well, that's just like common courtesy.
Exactly right. You know, exactly right. I don't know why it's so hard. It really oughtn't be. But anyway, it is what it is, and it gives me opportunity to go and help people. So, you know, happy days for me. Yeah. But like I say, I think it's just a process. It's just if you behave as you expect to, you know, if someone else is treating you that way, how do you feel? Good, bad, or indifferent? Well, don't do it to someone else. Yeah. Or if it's really good, carry on doing that. Yeah, cut and paste. But anyway, they don't seem to get it right. I don't know why.
What would be your ideal? You mentioned about working for some of the governments. I see you did some work with Sydney Swans. You've done some work in transportation, and now you mentioned about the kind of the scale ups. What's the ideal business or the ideal industry you'd love to work in? Yeah,
it's not an industry actually. Okay. And I'm literally working on this just now because, like I said, I think I've had a few false starts with setting up my businesses in the past, and then not really doing anything with them. And the not doing anything with them bit stems from this inability to have an interaction with another human. I'm pretty rubbish at that. Thank you, mate. So you know, I'm having a look at, you know, what is it I want to be when I'm older, kind of thing. And I think it would be not in, you know, super large scale multinationals anymore. Much more in the small to medium kind of size of organisation. The industry doesn't matter because what I do is it fits anywhere. You know, leadership. You don't have to have a certain style of leadership there relative to there. It's just leadership.
It's just leadership, yeah.
You know, and processes, doesn't matter what you're in. The processes need to be better, refined. Well, because I'm a process monkey, because of my Asperger's, you know, I don't need to have a knowledge of the background because I'm working with you. You know about cars, right? I don't know anything about cars. I like driving them. So you would know what the process looks like, but you might not know how to make it better.
Yeah.
But because I see the world that way anyway, I go, what about that? It's like Ben last year. I know nothing about building water tanks, but he knows plenty. Yeah. So I ask him a question. Yeah. Does this make sense? No. Okay. Well, why are you doing it? You know, take that bit out. Next. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think the industry doesn't matter. The size, small to medium, because then I can have an impact, and I feel like I can do that figurative. You know, arm around the shoulders of they, not just the boss or the leadership team, but you know the guys and girls as well. You know, I really love that. You know, so anywhere that is open to understanding, and this is the thing, isn't it? Is understanding that they need to do something differently. Many organisations don't want to do that, but I mean, I think COVID is really forcing the issue now. They have to transform. They have to do things differently. So. Hey, I'm here if you need me.
Look, I think it's really expedited some of those changes. You know, whether it's implementation of technology, whether it's, you know, a different style of leadership. You know, trusting your team. I mean, we've had to excel and change very, very quickly. You know, over the last 6 months, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. And some of the things have worked, some of them haven't worked. You know. It's going to be a balance, you know, going forward for a lot of businesses.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've said to a number of people, you know, my thoughts and feelings on COVID are actually pretty positive. Less for the death and destruction and economic hardship that a lot of people are facing. It's forcing change. You know, people are having to iterate and find the new way of being, and I don't think it's a bad thing. You know, the churn that it's creating is good, largely. I think.
Agree.
You know, the the systems need to be improved and updated and all those sorts of things. And I think it's just making that actually happen.
It's really getting rid of complacency.
100%, 100%. And like you say, it's changing the leadership as well.
Yeah.
For that alone, thank you. You know, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, it's forcing people to trust other humans. Jesus, we're social creatures, surely. You know, that's the first thing you put in a business, but often it isn't, you know.
Yeah, if you're not at your desk, you're not working.
Correct, yeah.
It's a horrible culture, a horrible mindset, sorry.
It is, yeah. It's really bad. I mean, if that is the culture, and you can... I think anyone can walk into an organisation and pick up pretty quickly what the culture is. And if it's like that, do you want to be there?
No,
not
at all.
You know, and it's then, well, how do you empower people to change it? How do you make people understand they should change it, and that there's a new world order out there available to them if they just go, oh, come and have a go. You know, I think I've been pretty lucky with that. So anyway, a long answer to a short question, but I think that the COVID thing is a good thing largely. Like I say, hopefully not too many people die from it, and they get the vaccine out there in the next couple of months. And great, but I think embrace the fact that it, you know, on the business side of things, it's changing everything, and that's great. I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
I think it's given a lot of people working from home. It's given a lot of people to stop, you know, pause and just reflect on their routine, their day to day.
Yeah.
You know, if you're working in the city, you know, right? How do I now? You kind of get up. You know, most of your day is just routine and kind of motor programs. So I think so for a lot of it stopped that for people, and it forced them to go, well, hang on a minute. I can now go for a walk. I can now go to the gym in the morning. I can now do other things. You know, if they had a 2-hour commute each way, they've just gained 4 hours of their day. What can they do with it? And obviously, the ability to impact their life now, more people are now actually working a little bit longer hours because they actually enjoy it, because they've had that hour to do something. So they're feeling better about themselves.
Well, it's the work-life balance, isn't it? You know, I mean...
the harmony.
We'll check you out.
Harmony.
The harmony. I mean, you know, when we were up the road here, we basically I had a gym down the garage, but, you know, it's two levels down, so it's not the best place to work out. So, you know, Andrew got us to put the weights out on the balcony there, so at least you got some fresh-ish air and a bit of a view, you know. But it meant it was a reminder that, you know, whilst you're sat at your desk, you go, okay, I'll just take, you know, half hour out to go and, you know, do a bit of rowing or whatever it might be, just to get the blood going again.
Yeah.
Stop having a bad neck and a bad back and all the other things that happen when you just sit down all the whole time, you know. And I think the you know, seen a lot of change there in terms of people want to stay fit and healthy, which is great. I mean, I've started running my sort of boot camps again, and it's just me volunteering to do it. There's no charge because I just love doing that stuff. You know, I know loads about it, and we've got the greatest back garden in the world now. You know, straight onto a beach and the sea. So guys and girls are coming around, and I get to, you know, put random movements together and go, oh, crack on then, love. You know,
you do some weird and wonderful stuff on your. I follow you on Instagram, and some of your workout routines are pretty cool. You love the kettlebells, don't you?
I mean, I
and those bats.
The Indian clubs.
Yeah, what are they?
Yeah, Indian clubs. Well, it actually came from when
India.
Oh, you're all over it today, aren't you? Eh?
Did some research.
Absolutely.
So that was when Britain annexed India. You know, basically stole India from the Indians. And the PTIs, the physical training instructors in the army, saw locals throwing these wooden clubs around their heads, sort of thing. Going, what's that? And it became a really big thing in England, in schools and stuff, for quite some time. If you have a look at it, if you Google it, Indian clubs, you'll see it almost like, you know, when you see that the masses from, you know, China or Japan or Korea, when they're all in the big stadiums, they're doing everything at the same time. It's kind of like that at school back home.
Right.
And they had these Indian clubs and they're throwing around. Anyway, what the reason for using them is that biomechanically it really strengthens the shoulder from the inside out. So it's not your big motor muscles that you can see that are necessarily taking the weight. It's more of the stabilization muscles internally. So your rotator cuff that everyone has a problem with, you know, largely because they sat down like this the whole time, you know. So Indian clubs really work, certainly the inner workings of the shoulder. And the subscap and places like that, so the back of the shoulder blade and things like that, just to hold your shoulders properly. You know, if you imagine your humerus, so the bone here, coming up into all the stuff and the top of your shoulder, it's got a finite amount of space. And as soon as you internally rotate, that space starts getting smaller and smaller. Well, you've got blood vessels, nerves, muscles, tendons, ligaments, everything's in there. Yeah. And now you're wedging it because you've done one of these. So Indian clubs just sort of forces you to bring your shoulders back to where they should be naturally and biomechanically in a strong position. And that's, I wouldn't say principally, but that was one of the things that I brought into the Swans, because you see AFL players with lots of tape on their shoulders, and it's because of this biomechanics problem, so got them to do a lot of that. And you'll see, from 2010 to 12, when I was helping Bryce out of the Swans, that a lot of the players were getting rid of some of that tape, and Jesse, who was one of the players, he had just had a shoulder reconstruction when I joined. And he wrote a testimony for me when I left, and he said, I forgot that I had a shoulder reconstruction after the work we did.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. So
just from the Indian clubs?
Indian clubs were a big part of it for him, for rehab and then prehab. But you mentioned the kettlebells. I'd sort of do a lot of off-axis lifting and make movement patterns up to make the body engage as a system. Whoops. Rather than doing some isolated, movements that are nonsensical, because you never just do that on its own unless you're doing that. If you see what I mean, if you're doing a curl, you're only ever doing a curl. You never ever do that movement apart from that. So putting movement patterns together that are fun as well, and I think I'd like to say that's the other reason that people like coming and do workout with me, because I sat there actually in bed 2 or 3 weekends ago. And Andrew said, why don't you put a routine together and do something down on the beach? And I just went, and I started thinking about all the sorts of things you could do, because it's the beach now, and you can throw things. Because throwing things is fun, because we're kids at heart, right? So you start chucking a kettlebell around and chase after it. It's brilliant. As it transpires, it's also fucking hard. So, it's making it fun. So that, what I really don't like hearing, and it especially comes from women. Oh, I don't like going to the gym. Why not? It's a playground. There's all sorts of stuff in there you can have a laugh with. But if you're in there and someone's just oh well, you've got to do it this way, and do you? Take your blinkers off and have a go at something else. So I really like that I can use things like Indian clubs, because not many people know what they are, and bring that into a circuit, and people sort of go away going, that was really cool, But yeah, especially like I say, the back garden we got now, and you're throwing kettlebells around and things like that. It's awesome. It's good fun.
The gym as well can be quite an intimidating place for someone. So, if you're a little bit male or female, if you're a little bit overweight and you're going into this, this massive gym with all this different equipment and apparatus, like, where do you start? Like, what do you do? And so that would just be sometimes a reason just not to go. Oh,
100%, 100%. And I mean that should be the role of the personal trainers that are in there, or the staff that are in there. But again, because the way the systems work in gyms largely is that, if I was a personal trainer in one of these, big gyms, branded gyms, I'd have to rent the gym from them, basically. So I've got to pay them in order to be there. So the vested interest is me, not everyone, and not the business, as a whole. So again, like the metrics of that and how that system plays out, I don't think means that you have an opportunity, if you've never been in a gym or you don't like going to them, to get into an environment where people come and help you and show you the best way of doing it. And this is where, the perpetuation of nonsensical movements happens, oh, you should do that. Really? And have you studied? No, but that bloke told me. Yeah. And how's he going? Oh, well, that bloke told it's just passing on.
He should put his back out.
Yeah. And I do laugh a little bit. You go into a gym setting and you'll see majority of people will be training the thing that you can see in the mirror looking at them. So they're completely imbalanced. They've done nothing, on their posterior chain. And you're going, you're definitely going to have an injury. It's only a matter of time. Yeah. You can absolutely put money on that. So yeah, I think you're right. The people can get quite intimidated when they go in there. And I find it quite interesting when I put out, I'm going to run some boot camps, and people get worried. Oh, it's going to be really bad because he was this. No, you see, because my enjoyment comes from inspiring, enthusing, and motivating you to want to do more of this, not do the shouty, oh, look, you know, rah, 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 rah. You know, you're not going through training, so you don't need that. And what do you actually get as a consequence of me shouting in your ear? Oh, well, you might think that you're going through that sort of thing, but you're not. So why do it? Whereas if I told you why you're doing a particular movement and the benefits of it, well, you're learning as well. So anyway, that's my take on it. You know, it keeps me fresh as well because it keeps my creative sort of need at bay to sort of try and craft something that's new and different, and you know, largely do completely different workouts. You know, I basically do 3 different sort of workouts in a week. You know, one is heavy and lifting really heavy stuff. Then a day off. Then we'll come back to rest in a minute. Remind me of that. Then we have a
wrestling.
Rest.
Right. Okay.
Then we have a day off. Then come back, and then it's body weight only. And then a couple of days off, and then it's ballistics and plyometrics. And you just can't go wrong with that because the body likes homeostasis. It likes a baseline. Yep. So it's always going to work against whatever you're trying to do. Always. So you want to get thin, right? You stop eating as much, and then it works against you, and you get fatter anyway, because it's a clever machine, right? So you got to outsmart the machine, and the way you do that is constantly making it go, well, what are you doing next? What do you want from me? You know. But the big thing, so coming back to rest, you know, you go into a gym setting or any setting where people are trying to get fit for something or just fit for self. The amount of overtraining that I see is absolutely bananas. You know. That the body works on a principle called SAID, specific adaptation of imposed demands. The adaptation only happens when you're resting. Well, if you're not resting because you're working out every day, when's the adaptation happening? It isn't.
All right.
So that's when you overtrain. So people go, oh, no, I need to do more. No, you don't.
That's the problem. That's the problem we have, mate. We overtrain.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Boys, girls.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But, you know, so again, sort of trying to you know, encourage people to understand a little bit more about what's happening to them, and that you shouldn't just be doing more and more. And that's the thing. As soon as you start seeing results, you want more results, and you need them now. And you go, okay, you know, this is time under the bar here. You know, you've got to take your time so you don't hurt yourself and everything else. So yeah, rest is really important if you want to actually sort of change your body and how it looks.
Are you still on the golf course?
No, mate. No, I've the last 6 months have been pretty rubbish with my back. You know, because of all the running around that I've done since a young age, and then add to that, you know, 2 lots of commando training, which they've scientifically looked at, you know, at the Institute of Naval Medicine down in Gosport back home, that it ages your body by 5 years. So I'm nearly 60 biomechanically, you know. Little wonder things are starting to go, you know. So yeah. So my facet joint on the left side at L4, L5 has worn away, and might not mean anything, but basically that means that the nerves are pretty much open to a lot of abuse from moving. So it doesn't like to move now, and especially doesn't like to move in a golf swing. And because in my mind, because we're all boys, right? Peter Pan syndrome is that I still think that I could probably beat Tiger Woods. So, you know, that's obvious, right? So I still swing it at, you know, 115, 117 miles an hour and wonder why my back's going, oh, I don't think so, you know. But so no, I haven't done it for a while, but I'm getting that looked at the moment. So hopefully back out there shortly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Fair play. All right, mate. Well, look, I think we're going to wrap things up here. A massive thank you for coming along. Very, very insightful. One awesome. Hell of a journey. How do people get hold of you, mate?
Mate, what do you do? I mean, I don't have a website anymore, but, you know, just give us a call.
LinkedIn
as well. Yeah, out there on that. I don't think I should give the number on this, right?
No.
Yeah, just see us through LinkedIn and reach out, and like I say, whether it's doing the physical stuff, or whether you want me to help you transform your business, or whether it's leadership coaching, you know, those are the 3 things that I can do well. Everything else I'm rubbish at. Don't ask me to add up or spell something. Really bad at that. And you know, if you want me to be the centre of attention in a party, wrong. I'm rubbish at that as well. So yeah, those 3 things I'm really quite good at.
That's awesome. Well, mate, thank you for coming along today.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.